I still remember the moment I defied every ancient warning, the moment I stole the gleaming, ornate artifact from the depths of an Egyptian tomb, a relic whispered about in dusty hieroglyphs and cursed in secret lore, and how that single act shattered the fragile barrier between myth and reality, plunging me into a nightmare I can neither escape nor fully comprehend. I had been an ambitious archaeologist, driven by insatiable curiosity and the promise of fame, yet even I felt a shudder of trepidation as I descended into the tomb's labyrinthine corridors, where stagnant air reeked of decay, and time itself seemed to pause in silent vigil over centuries of lost souls. The artifact, a small scarab encrusted with vibrant, otherworldly colors, beckoned me with its hypnotic allure, and in the desperate thrill of discovery, I snatched it from its sacred pedestal, unaware that in doing so I was severing a link to a power far older than humanity. That fateful night, as I sat alone in my sparsely lit downtown Tucson apartment, with the relic resting ominously on my desk, I first heard it, a soft, rhythmic whisper that slithered through the darkness like a living thing, uttering indecipherable words in an ancient tongue, each syllable sending icy tendrils of dread down my spine. At first, I dismissed it as an overactive mind's echo of exhaustion after days spent excavating forbidden ruins. But as the hours wore on, the voice grew insistent, swelling into a chorus of sibilant chants that filled the silent room with a palpable, creeping sense of doom. Night after night, my sleep was plagued by recurring visions, endless corridors of crumbling stone lit only by the flicker of torches, spectral figures draped in tattered linen reaching out with desperate, pleading hands, their hollow eyes reflecting eternal sorrow, and always, in the background, that mournful refrain repeating a single, damning phrase meant solely for me. With each sunrise, subtle changes began to manifest around me. The scarab pulsed with a faint inner light that cast eerie, shifting patterns on my walls, and I began to notice that the whispers seemed to follow me beyond the confines of my apartment, echoing in empty corridors and lingering in the corners of my vision as if tracking my every step. Desperate for answers, I immersed myself in ancient texts and cryptic inscriptions, scouring forbidden libraries and digital archives that held secrets of curses and lost deities, only to uncover chilling tales of a mummy, a once powerful priest whose soul had been bound to the artifact by an arcane ritual meant to secure his passage to the afterlife. The texts warned that disturbing this sacred seal would unleash a malevolent spirit doomed to wander the realm of the living, seeking vengeance on those who dared to violate its eternal slumber. Driven by equal parts scientific curiosity and mounting terror, I began documenting every anomaly. I set up cameras throughout my apartment, capturing fleeting images of shadowy figures and recording the soft susurrations of the ancient curse, each recording revealing ghostly silhouettes, a figure in decayed linen here, a pair of glowing eyes there, that set my heart into a frenzied rhythm of fear. One stormy night, as lightning fractured the sky and torrential rain hammered against my windows like the clamor of 1,000 anguished souls, I woke to find the scarab levitating above my desk, its light intensifying to reveal spectral hieroglyphs etched across the ceiling. In that horrifying moment, the whispers reached a crescendo, their sound like the clashing of distant cymbals and the mournful wail of lost spirits merging into one overwhelming dirge, and I felt an excruciating pain, as though icy, unseen fingers were gripping my heart and drawing me inexorably toward the cursed relic. Terrified yet driven by a desperate need to understand, I attempted to destroy the artifact, smashing it against the cold, unyielding surface of my desk with a heavy iron tool, but as shards scattered across the floor, the curse only deepened, coalescing into a single, spine-chilling command: return what is ours, or be lost forever. In the days that followed, my life descended into a vortex of creeping madness and unrelenting terror. Objects in my apartment began to move of their own accord, a book falling from a shelf, a lamp flickering erratically as if guided by invisible hands, and the persistent whispering invaded every quiet moment, whispering dark promises and ominous predictions that eroded the boundaries of my sanity. I became a prisoner in my own home, haunted by the specter of a vengeful mummy whose presence lurked in every shadow, every reflection in a mirror, as if his ancient spirit had woven itself into the very fabric of my reality. Desperate for salvation, I sought out a reclusive expert in ancient curses and paranormal phenomena, a gaunt man with eyes that bore the weight of countless unspeakable encounters. In a dim, smoke-filled study lined with brittle scrolls and weathered grimoires, he recounted the terrible history of the relic, explaining how the mummy, once a revered priest of forgotten dynasty, had been ensnared by a ritual meant to secure his divine favor, only to be condemned to wander as an eternal wraith. When his sanctified seal was broken, his voice trembled as he warned me that the curse was inexorable, a relentless force that could not be banished by mere mortal will, and that I must return the artifact to its rightful resting place deep within the tomb from which it was stolen, lest I be consumed entirely by the ancient evil I had awakened. Despite his desperate counsel, the curse had already burrowed its way into every aspect of my life. My nights became a torment of waking nightmares, where I would see visions of desolate temple corridors, hear the anguished cries of countless souls, and feel the cold, relentless gaze of a spirit whose wrath was as old as time itself. I found myself obsessively retracing my steps, scouring every scrap of evidence from the excavation site, poring over dusty field notes and fragmented hieroglyphs in a futile bid to piece together a ritual that might break the curse. Yet, with every incantation I attempted, every plea to the gods of the ancient world, the spectral whispers only grew louder and more insistent, filling my mind with images of a desolate future where I, too, would become nothing more than a forgotten relic, my soul tethered to an endless cycle of vengeance and despair. In the midst of this torment, the world outside seemed to twist into an unrecognizable mirage. Friends and colleagues began to distance themselves, unnerved by the wild, haunted look in my eyes and the frantic scribbles in my journal, and I was left to wander the shadowed streets of Tucson at night, the chill of the desert air mingling with the unseen cold of an ancient curse. I started recording my experiences on my YouTube channel, a desperate, trembling confession meant to serve as both a warning and a chronicle of my slow descent into madness, hoping that someone somewhere might heed my plea and help me break free from the relentless grip of this supernatural horror. Each video, raw and unfiltered, captured the eerie moments, the persistent glow of the scarab shards that refused to fade even after the attempted destruction, the inexplicable movement of objects at the edge of my vision, and the unceasing, spectral chanting that seemed to emanate from the very walls of my apartment. My recordings became a window into a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred into a single, harrowing continuum, a realm where the curse whispered its eternal ultimatum and time itself seemed to warp under the weight of ancient malice. One particularly harrowing evening, as I sat before my camera in the dim light of a flickering candle, the power unexpectedly failed, plunging the room into an oppressive darkness that was quickly filled by the low, rhythmic sound of chanting, an incantation that reverberated with the voices of countless generations lost to time. In that suffocating silence, I felt the cold, inexorable touch of a spectral hand upon my shoulder, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I was certain that I was no longer alone, that the vengeful spirit of the mummy had reached across the veil of death to claim me as its own. Shaken to my core, I managed to record every detail of that encounter, my voice trembling as I pleaded for mercy and recounted the surreal horror of feeling my very soul ensnared by a curse that knew no end. In the days that followed, I attempted to resume a semblance of normalcy, but every fleeting moment was haunted by the relentless presence of that ancient, wrathful spirit, an ever-looming reminder of my transgression and the dire consequences of disturbing forces that should have remained undisturbed. My once hopeful dreams were now filled with ceaseless apparitions of shadowy figures and echoing voices reciting forgotten curses, and even the bright light of day seemed tinged with an unholy pallor, as if the ancient evil had seeped into every corner of my existence. Now, as I document these harrowing events with a trembling hand and a heart burdened by the relentless echo of lost souls, I remain trapped in a state of perpetual torment, caught between the world of the living and the dark, unforgiving realm of the undead. Every creak of the floor, every unexpected gust of wind, and every whisper in the darkness serves as a harrowing reminder of the curse I unleashed, a curse that binds me inexorably to the spectral legacy of a mummy whose sorrow and rage know no bounds. And so, I leave you with this final, anguished question that has become the refrain of my haunted existence. Have you ever dared to disturb an ancient secret, to challenge the sacred sanctity of history, only to find that the consequences are not confined to myth, but reach out from the abyss to claim your very soul?